Everything we've talked about up to this point has to do with groups that exist on the domain controller. We're dealing with global groups on that DC. We're dealing with domain local groups that also exist on that domain controller. But we haven't really talked much about local groups. We discussed them earlier back when we were talking about users, and we also took a look here on a particular server like this machine file 1 just to see the local groups, not domain local, but local groups that exist on every Windows server that we may have. What I want to show you here is that if on this machine file 1, if we come here to Tools and to Computer Management, we can take a look at that list of local users and groups that exists on a machine. Here under the list of groups are all those that exist for this machine, and I would then potentially take a global group from my domain, or even a domain local group, and add it in here into my local group on this machine to provide a group of Active Directory users the permissions to accomplish one of these variety of tasks. Now, as you can imagine, this gets somewhat cumbersome over time. If you think about the 20 or 30 or 40 servers that you may need to control, well, making sure that the right people get in the administrators group or the backup operators group is something that can be overwhelming when you start having to do it on every single machine using the manual approach. And so for that reason, Microsoft provides with group policy the abilities to define which users should go in which groups via a group policy object, as opposed to having to do this the manual way. Let's flip back over here to my machine DC, because on this machine I have an access to the Group Policy Management console. And I'm going to just edit here the default domain policy, but I would not do this again in production unless you're sure you want this to go to every single machine in your domain. What I want to show you here is that under the default domain policy, if I go down here to Policies and Windows Settings, and then if I take a look at Security Settings, there's an item down here called Restricted Groups, which allows me to enter in one or more groups that I may wish to control. Let's say that the group I'm interested in controlling is the administrators group. If I enter that in, this will give me the abilities to define the members of this group up here at the top, and the fact that this group is a member of other groups down here at the bottom. So for example, if I wanted to define the members of a group, I could define the members of the group as being the domain admins group. Setting domain admins here to the administrators group will ensure that the domain admins global group ends up as a member of the administrators local group on each machine where this Active Directory group policy object applies. You see this commonly done to ensure that the IT group ends up being an administrator, so that the backup operators group gets put in the proper location on local machines. But anytime you've got those custom groups that may not necessarily be domain admins, that are any of the default groups out of the box, this tool here with group policy allows you to then deploy out all of your custom groups out to all the servers and potentially desktops that exist in your Active Directory domain.